So who's excited to be here in Denver? Wow, a lot of hands. Awesome. So I'm going to be talking about a very specific problem that Covalent solves. And the moniker we've given to this problem is the data availability gap. So just a brief intro to DeFi for if you have been not exposed to it. So a little bit about myself. So I'm a physicist by training, and I worked on pharmaceutical drugs for a very long time before moving to the big data space. And so I and a bunch of people started Covalent a couple of years ago to solve the data problem on the blockchain. And so I'll go into more depth in that in a short while. And so anything about DeFi, data analytics, anything post the fact, come hit me up. Excited to jam ideas. So DeFi, in my perspective, is just fintech 2.0. And so if fintech cuts out the traditional banking structures, then I would say DeFi takes it a step further and completely cuts out the middleman. So that's really how I put this narrative in my mind that DeFi is fintech 2.0. And so this is really an exciting time to be in this space because you can see everything that's going on in the finance industry. And for someone like myself who's not from a traditional finance background, this is a really, you learn a lot. I've learned so many buzzwords. People in tech are usually anointed with buzzwords, but finance has its own set of buzzwords. So this is my perspective on what DeFi is. And DeFi is basically the biggest narrative that's happening on Ethereum. It's mostly all Ethereum. So one metric that the community keeps track of is the assets locked in the system. And so that has just recently, as of last week, crossed $1 billion. So that, I think, is a big milestone. Whether you agree with the metric or not is a perspective. In fact, we even have a blog post on our blog on why this is not a good metric. But it's something. It's a meme, and it's a rally cry for the entire community to come together. And so you can slice this data in other ways, the number of loans that are originated, the transaction volume, all those things. But the key thing is the total value locked in the system is growing tremendously. So let's cut to the chase, right? So all the data on the blockchain is public, but you can't really get it out. I mean, you can go to Etherscan, you can download some CSVs, you can look at your transactions, but if you want a programmatic way to extract data from the blockchain, it's actually really, really hard. It's expensive because you need to run these archive nodes, and not only running archive nodes are expensive, you also have to write some kind of scripts to extract that data into a format that you can use. It's a black box. A lot of these smart contracts are very complex. I believe the MakerDAO system has about 50 different contracts, so there's like transactions going back and forth, so it's very hard to decipher what's going on. And blockchains itself are increasing complexity. You've probably heard of all of the roll-up technology and the zero-knowledge proofs. So more and more of these scaling technologies are making the transaction data hard to decipher and pull out. So I think the complexity of this data extraction is becoming super hard, and that's why there's a gap in the availability of data. So we will jump to a case study which illustrates this problem. And so this is a real case study. What has happened is we don't know the client. We know their tax accountant. They have gone leverage long on Maker. So what they have is they have a couple of $1 million in ETH that they locked up in Maker, minted DAI, sold the DAI for ETH on Oasis, which is a decentralized exchange, and used that ETH to lock it back in, and then did that 5 times, and asymptotically you get about 3x leverage. So, which is great. They got in at about $70, $80, and they exited that position at about $225. So they made a lot of money, but they had no idea what their P&L was because all of the cost basis, all of the steps was super hard. This was over a course of multiple weeks and tens of thousands of transactions. So the record-keeping nightmare is basically this, right? So this person opened up the CDP using Maker's portal, and then InstantDApp, which is a front end for a lot of these protocols, makes it easy to open and manage your Maker and Compound positions. So then they migrated from the CDP, which is open through Maker's portal, through InstaDApp. So InstaDApp has its own smart contract wallet, so your positions are actually fragmented across these two different wallets. And who knows if that particular transfer is taxable or not, right? So that's still a lot of questions there. When you buy $1 million of DAI on decentralized exchange like Oasis, it gets chopped up, and each fill has a different cost basis, a different DAI price. So sometimes it's 99 cents, sometimes it's $1.01. So you need to keep track of that because that's essentially how you make the profits. If you have a Coinbase or a Binance account, you can just go there and download a CSV of all of your transactions, right? They've figured all of that stuff out because it's just a centralized database. There's no download CSV button for a lot of these DEXs, and there are a lot of DEXs. It's not just Oasis, right? There's Uniswap, there's Kyber, there's one exchange, there's the aggregators that split up across different things. So it's actually really complicated. Simpler things like, for example, if you shut a CDP, it gets assigned to the 000 address. And some of you guys might know that that's like the dev null of the blockchain. So it's the kitchen sink. Everything gets assigned to it. And so no one is really indexing that address because it has all the garbage in it. So you can't really figure out what are my shut CDPs. MakerScan won't do it. MakerTools won't do it. No tools out there do it unless you're able to scan the entire blockchain. And a lot of the times these are automated scripts that do the trades. So there are tens of thousands of trades, and bringing all of that stuff up on the browser is actually pretty heavy. So your browser actually crashes in a lot of these cases. A lot of the transactions inside may or may not be taxable. This is not tax advice, it's not investment advice, but it really depends on the jurisdiction. So for example, in France, crypto to crypto is not taxable, but in Canada and the States, it's taxable. Some people say that in the previous CDP system, when you had ETH to wrapped ETH to pooled ETH, that is actually a taxable event. So at smaller amounts, it's not really a big deal, but bigger amounts, it actually matters. You need to keep track of these things. And so you need a transaction that breaks it down into the granular forms. Classification of taxable events. Like the pooled ETH, wrapped ETH conversion is an example. But there are other kinds of things, like do you recognize certain kinds of transactions? In the staking world, what happens is your staking rewards and your airdrops and your transaction fees, they're all different kinds of transactions, and depending on your taxation rules, they're taxed differently. The composable nature of DeFi really amplifies this data availability gap. So it's very common these days to, I think some of you guys probably heard today that B0X had a problem, and that's because it's sourcing data from multiple different on-chain entities. So it's not really a hack. It's a different kind of exploit, right? It's not a smart contract hack. So you can source liquidity from Uniswap, from Kyber, a lot of these pools, or you can aggregate them. So the composable nature of DeFi, which is amazing, actually makes the record-keeping nightmare even more. It's just going to keep you up all night if your nightmare is just like 5 minutes, right? So that's really what the challenge with, or the problem statement of what the gap is. So, in the US, the IRS is something you cannot ignore, right? So the general look back, they can just come back for an audit in 3 years. If you've understated your income, they can come back to you in 6 years. If there's fraud or there's some problem, they can come back for you ever. So they can come back to you 6 years from now, 10 years from now, and say, hey, what happened to these trades? How come you haven't recognized income on these? And then what's up? Okay, and now you have to pay penalties on these things. And then it's just a mess. So this is the same in Canada as well. So you really need to keep your records to make sure you're compliant. So we built a front end on top of Covalent's data. So Covalent indexes the blockchain. We're a blockchain indexing solution. And so the moniker we use it's a download CSV for DeFi data. A lot of our clients, they have in-house counsel, they have in-house tax accountants, and so they don't really need a taxation solution because they do it by hand. It's very complex. all they need is download a CSV and give me all the data so I can do my pivot charts and figure out my liabilities. And so that's basically what we've built. So I'm going to do a quick live demo to show you like some of the things that we do. So the front page, it's safekeep.app. Some of the things we do is, it's still in private beta, so come ask me for a code after. So the whole fragmentation of wallets, right? Because you have smart contract wallets in Argent, in Gnosis Safe, in Instadap, Dapper is another smart contract wallet. There's a way for you to fuse these wallets together and get a holistic picture of your assets. So we automatically do those joins. So all you have to do is put in your ENS name here, and it's good to go. And so this is the Maker system. So we support about 10 different protocols. So we've decoded data, not just transactions, but we are actually able to understand the DeFi actions. So whether it's a borrow or a stake or a lend or a trade or a swap, and then it's up to you to decide what that means to your business or to yourself. And so this is an example of pulling out wallets and CDPs that are within Instadap, within your MetaMask wallet, because sometimes you just don't, like the Maker CDP system, the portal doesn't pull up Instadap CDPs. So this is a centralized place to pull up all of this stuff. And of course, we have all of the actions. So you can just download CSV, so it tells you all the cost basis. These are all the shut CDPs, and this is basically the only place to get your shut CDPs. You can go to Maker Tools, you can go to MakerScan. It's all on the blockchain. It's not data that we invented. It's just very difficult to get to it. Another example is token sets. Token sets is a very popular protocol. It's like an ETF. It's a basket of assets, and it constantly rebalances. And for tax benefits, it's non-custodial, so you don't pay taxes on the rebalancing. So if you did the rebalancing yourself, you have liabilities. So in token sets, the way this works is that you accumulate a position, a token set, and you have a different entry point. And so you need to figure out the cost basis, either a weighted cost basis or some kind of taxation model. And then from there, you have to figure out the realized and unrealized gains to know your P&L. So that's basically what this is. So we're able to do P&Ls for your token sets. Maybe I should make it dark mode. Oh, that's better. So this is just some random address I pulled up on Etherscan. I put it in here. It's able to pull up all of your positions, all of your cost basis, and your P&L. And then, of course, all of your closed trades. And then you can just download a CSV to figure out what your liabilities are. And of course, it also shows you all of the rebalancing events, because it's pretty important to keep track of these to know if you're still profitable or you want to change your strategy. So yeah, that's the end of my presentation, and I'm happy to take up questions. I believe there's a microphone.
Questions? Thank you, man. Great stuff. So the P&L side is just on the right side? That's the plus or minus thing?
Yeah, it's just that simple. So it gets you the current market price, it gets you your cost basis, and then the subtraction is your P&L.
So, and can you set it up for dates? Say, for example, last month, this month, the year before, or this is a picture of everything that has happened?
We could do that, but it's not implemented on this thing. We have the data for that. Yeah, but that's a great idea. Thanks.
Any other questions?
You talked a little bit about it at the beginning, but is there another metric you think we should be looking at when it comes to DeFi?
So it's a little off topic here, but since we have some time, I'll just talk a little bit about it. So we have a blog post on this that goes into the details. So the total value locked is it goes up in two ways, right? So if your ETH price, it's actually a proxy for ETH price. So if your ETH price, ETH USD price drops, then what happens is people top up their collateral so that they don't get liquidated. So it actually goes up. And if the ETH USD price goes up, you have to do nothing, it just goes up because it's in dollars. So it doesn't really tell you what the activity is, or it doesn't tell you what's going on with the engagement data. Essentially, that's what you need to care about. So the loan origination or that kind of activity, like granular data, makes more sense, I think. Okay, great. Well, thanks so much. I'll see you guys around.
Thank you.